So this is now a couple days old, but North Carolina a couple days ago passed the 3 million voter mark, 3 million votes mark in early voting. And Republicans had a slight 35,000 vote lead in the early voting, just Republicans versus Democrats, not including more than a million votes of others, too, independents, basically. So what does that really tell us about where North Carolina is trending? How does it feel on the ground, and particularly with the Helene variable in terms of people actually being able to get to vote, as the cleanup and restoration, is just still in its obviously very early stages. That's going to be a years-long process. To help us understand North Carolina and how things are going for the Trump campaign down there, pleased to be joined by Jason Simmons, who is Jason Simmons, who is the chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party. Jason, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, how do you feel about what the early voting numbers look like?
We're very encouraged by what we continue to see. As you indicate, we've now gone over the 3 million mark for early vote in person as well as absentee ballots that have been returned. And what we are seeing is an unprecedented amount of Republicans across the state showing up in droves. They've been frustrated with what they've seen over the past 4 years. And as you mentioned, with Hurricane Helene and the response by the federal government, it's only amplified that frustration. And so we are seeing at this point more than 47,000 Republicans have voted over the Democrats. So this is an unprecedented territory as we wrap up early vote this Saturday.
What was it like 4 years ago by comparison?
Well, what we've continued to see is Republicans have outperformed where we were in 2020, and Democrats are way under their mark. There is not a single county across North Carolina where they have more votes today than they did 4 years ago. Republicans have never finished the early vote period here in North Carolina going into election. Trump won here in 2016. He won in 2020, and he's on the verge of doing so again for a third straight time.
Can you tell us how it works if somebody lost their home and they have no identification, and how that works? How you can still get them to be able to vote if they have none of those items?
No, very fair question. So I've had the opportunity in the last couple of weeks to travel across Western North Carolina, visit with our leaders, standing up the early vote locations across North Carolina's impacted counties. Each and every one of them were able to stand up their early vote locations on time, have the machines, have the ballots, and what we saw were long lines and especially record-breaking numbers by Republicans in those areas. For those that have been impacted by the hurricane, where they've lost their homes or they've lost ID, where this is the first election that North Carolina is being able to show voter ID after 10 years of Democrats hindering that, as it's been passed both by our legislature as well as a constitutional amendment. But if you do not have your ID because of the storm, you're able to fill out a reasonable impediment form and be able to cast a ballot that way.
Do you have any idea what the composition of the electorate that's turned out so far is? I mean, are these low propensity voters? Are you seeing a spike in low propensity voters? Are these higher propensity voters? I mean, you're trying to get a handle on whether or not the early vote is sort of cannibalizing the election day vote, or you're really seeing something that is, representative of a surge.
No, very fair question. So what we continue to see is Republicans outperforming Democrats with the low to mid propensity voters. So we have a lot of voters that have not voted yet that voted on Election Day in 2020. So we still have a large amount of our voters, over 90%, that will still turn out between now and Election Day that voted in 2020 on Election Day.
Hmm. And other than obviously the Helene issue, which you just addressed, do you have any ballot integrity issues that have arisen, as we're seeing now starting to pop up in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan?
Not to the extent that we've seen in those areas. We do have some, some of the routine and some of the things that we've seen have been addressed. We've got a great team here on our election integrity, over 615 attorneys, as over 8,500 election integrity volunteers out there watching what's going on with curbside voting as well as inside the voting early voting locations. And so as they see something, they are encouraged to say something and report it up to our hotline to be able to get that information to our
down ballot, is the governor's race, is that competitive, or what's your handle on Mark Robinson in that race?
Well, all of our races are competitive. So as you continue to see, especially with the turnout, as the Republican vote is up and Democrat vote is down, it will have a good impact for all of our races up and down the ballot.
Jason Simmons, chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party. Jason, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. You take care.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
So right now may be the perfect time for you to rethink how you pay for health care. And here's why. This time of year is decision time for a lot of people, but it's also when you can join Medi-Share and save even more than usual. For many families, joining Medi-Share means saving about $500 a month, which is a game changer for a lot of people, obviously. But what's more, Medi-Share members like it a lot. Their satisfaction rate is 98%. Imagine that. And Medi-Share is a proven thing, too, for over 30 years. It's a Christian community of hundreds of thousands of people now. And here's the thing. If you join before November 15th and you mention the promo code SHARE, they'll waive your application fee, so you save even more right off the bat. I'll give you the number here in a second, but just call and you'll get a price within 2 minutes. And again, the deadline is November 15th. So call now. You'll save even more. Here's the number, 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE, 844-41-BIBLE.
If you have high blood pressure,